Welcome to Pandora's Box, starring Drew Jameson Ben Armstrong as Drewster le Bear, and of course, the Mayor of Winkletown himself, Nathaniel Warren as Young Bullwinkle. And finally, Calum Waits as Obadiah Pennywhistle.
Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Pandora's box, yo!
Oh, wow.
Nice,
That was a little beatboxing
nice.
intro there from Drewster le Bear.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Pandora's Box, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about the fact there's no video this week, everyone. We had some technical difficulties.
Old school podcasting.
It is. It's old school podcast, and we don't have any video. Although
We
I say,
could look like anything right now.
I know.
Imagine in your head what we look like.
actually be aliens.
I think we are.
That's
So yeah, we're going to release this obviously on all platforms as usual. You'll know this whichever platform you're listening to on because of the very fact that you can listen to it. But there are no visages. You will not be able to take in our visages.
Because I am the most
For
forgetful man on human existence.
Yeah, basically we finished
Inhuman existence.
we finished filming our music video today, or at least hopefully. We think we did. But Drew met me at my house and picked up Young Bullwinkle on the way. And basically all the recording stuff, like cameras and stuff, are in his car.
Still in my car, man.
Which he left
Still in my
outside
car.
my house, because we went straight from my house in my car to the woods to finish filming.
Then to the studio.
And then straight from the studio, just save time. But yeah,
Always think ahead.
Drewsy left the cameras in his car.
In the
Always
grand
think
scheme of
ahead.
things, though, for what we're going to gain from today,
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was a worthy.
Yeah,
Hope-
Hopefully
worthy
people
fail.
aren't too sad about the fact that just for 1 week they can't see our faces.
And for anyone that is, just you wait.
Just you wait.
Just you wait.
You'll see us in a way you've never seen us before.
The Tale of Jimmy O'Malley Part 2.
yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully, I'm hopeful and I'm confident that it'll come to light in a way that we will be all happy with. And as I said, we've already seen like a little bit of it. Bullwinkle's been working on the editing of it, and we've seen like the sort of the first half, and it's already looking pretty good considering it's still like pretty rough.
Pretty bare bones.
Yeah, exactly. So we finished filming the last half of the video today. So hopefully it's gonna come out pretty well.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
It's
man.
fun, man. Fun up on the Quantock
Good stuff.
Hills.
Very
Yeah, it
good
has been
stuff.
fun, hasn't it? Yeah, man. It's like it's been fun sort of taking in all the different landscapes and that, hasn't it? Like, we'll look around the Quantocks as well.
And
Yeah.
you know what? It's something that I think I need to do more. I don't go out and like just go on walks and get to
mate,
see
I
like,
love
nice
it every
scenery
day.
a lot.
Well, now you know that place that we went today, Bullwinkle. You should
Yeah,
just
yeah,
go
yeah.
on that one and almost like just explore. Just keep walking, but try not to get lost.
Feel the breath of the universe as you walk through the trees of life.
Exactly.
Yes, nicely said, Drewster le Bear. Nicely said. I always think like, in terms of like enjoying it, but without trying to get lost. Just remember that obviously, say where
Stay
we
the
went.
path.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
say
yeah,
where we
yeah.
went, like to the left of. Just remember that eventually you're going to have to come around to the right.
Yeah.
And if you
yeah,
keep going
yeah.
around to the right, then eventually you'll find like a road that'll lead you back to your car.
I got so lost recently in
Did you?
in Ludlow when
Did
I
you?
went there over Christmas. Yeah, we went walking on this massive. It was what was it called? It was called Pernicles Peak or something like
Pernicles
that. It was like some
Not
weird
a place
name.
you want to get lost.
And like
No.
and you just follow this trail, and it's a really long trail. Or it's called Jack Trails Hill or something
called
like
Jack
that.
the Lad.
And it is literally like up these kind of massive hills. Like you go really high up into the hills in Ludlow or by Ludlow. And we kind of turned off. We went our own way, and it's that feeling. You're like, I can feel that it's gonna be back that way. Like. Ended up in this massive circle, but just by this manor house, just in the middle of the woods, and it is like where actual are, and it says like private land. No, you can't go this
Entry,
way anymore. Yeah. So then just trekking up back through the woods. But when you've already been on like a 2-hour walk, and it's like you get into that point where you just want to get back to the car now. It's like, but then it was literally like another like hour and a half to even find our way back to the
Were
car.
you freaking out a little bit?
Yeah, I was, because there was this massive hill as well. It was very hilly. And there was this one point where I saw this, like, I looked up into the trees and you could just see this trail up into the trees. And I walked past and I was thinking, I'm so glad I'm not walking up there. but like we had to turn back around, trail back, and then I had to go up there later on in the walk. Right? So even after I'd walked past it the first time, just so we were like kind of back in the right direction.
Yeah.
Meg got her bearing. She's well better with stuff like that.
Is she?
Nice.
Yeah, I always feel like pretty confident with that stuff, like internal compass.
I think I am, but then I'm just really wrong. And it's like, oh, damn.
I realised the other day, like how easy it is to actually lose your bearings. I was driving home, and it was when
I'm
I
not
was
very good with it in the car.
Yeah, do you remember I was talking to you about the moon earlier, and saying like how good the moon looked.
Yeah.
So I was driving back from the gym in my car, and the moon stays in one place. So you would think, right?
Yeah.
You would think. But as I was driving, it shocked me just how much like small changes in the road. I would think if I'm facing this way, then I go home and I'm facing pretty much the same way, the moon would be in the same spot, right? Sure. But I get home and thinking about it, and then the moon's in a completely different spot, and I'm like,
so you think you're still that way, but you're a completely different direction.
Exactly. It's so easy to like, lose track of what angle you're actually going at and which angle is behind you. So I could definitely resonate to getting lost.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, as I said, like I don't know, either I've been really lucky or I've got like a good internal compass for being on foot, because I definitely don't when I'm in the car. But like, yeah, I've gone on some mental fucking off the beaten path. Beep. Some mental like off the beaten path walks before. Just walked into the middle of nowhere for like an hour plus.
Yeah.
And then thought, right, I think I just need to go right. And then eventually I'll find like a way to get home or whatever. And then I've never ever gotten lost.
Was it you that told me about that cat? That guy? Or was it something I just saw?
Oh yeah, no, I think I've told you.
And it was this dude would go hiking out into like the Grand Canyon or something, but he'd always take his cat with him.
His cat.
And wherever he would go, the cat would literally always know the way back to the car.
He
would just follow the cat, and the cat would just sense the way back to
I've
the car.
also heard another story about a cat that accidentally got into the back of a delivery van once when someone was just getting something delivered, and the driver of the delivery van didn't realise, and he drove something like 50 miles back to his depot, and then when he opened up the door at the end of the night, the cat like ran out, but then it like just disappeared before the guy could say anything. Anyway, so the owners didn't know where the cat was. The delivery driver didn't know where this cat was, and obviously, like the owners just like for like weeks, like just didn't know where their cat was, and blah blah blah. And then like after about like 2 or 3 weeks, like the cat just came through the freaking cat flap, and
that's crazy.
Epic 50-mile journey.
Yeah, it travelled like something like that, like 50 miles or something like that, like all the way back to the end. It's just found its house.
That's so cool.
I
saw a video that went viral. Sorry, just on this topic. It was a video that went viral of someone who trapped this bug. I think it was a hornet.
Baby.
Into.
I accidentally just footsie Drew.
So this guy trapped this bug. It was like a mean-looking hornet thing, right?
Oh, nasty.
Trapped it in a cup, and he was, I don't know what he was planning to do with it, like just let it free somewhere else, whatever.
1 cup.
And someone replied to this video and said that is the one bug you don't want to do. Like, not all hornets, but it was like this hornet in particular, and it apparently only like can remember where it's going based off photographic memory, and it can like form vendettas against people. So it would like literally remember exactly how to get to that place, and because you trapped it in the thing, it's coming. Basically, it is coming after you. And I just thought that was proper ominous.
That is really
ominous. Don't want to get chased by an old hornet, man.
Exactly.
That is really freaking ominous, man.
Ominous.
Yeah, ominous as you like.
I even got lost. Well, I didn't get lost, but kind of did on the way to yours today this morning, man. If I start chatting to Bullwinkle when I'm driving to Stegursey, I just shoot right past that turn into Stegursey, and I end up by Hinkley Point, and then I'm like, oh god, I've gone too far again.
We've done that twice.
So did you turn in that second turn in when you're going past Babylon Brook?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, yeah. You don't even know.
Definitely went on a left turn. I had to turn around on the road and then go down that turn in.
So did you end up like going into Stegursey from the other side, if you know what I mean? From like Lilstock way?
Yeah.
Well, you've done that both times.
I think so. I drove one time, and because I didn't really know that. Literally, the only times I've been to Stegursey is going to your place, so I don't really know the way. But yeah, we've overshot the exit twice.
And then it's like, oh, I've gone past the turning now.
So you did that this weekend, last week, did it?
Not last
week. This week, and then
a couple of
months ago.
Oh, I see.
Easily done though. Concentration.
Concentration overload.
So easy to lose it.
Yeah, man. Do you remember like ages ago we were talking? I was talking about that company called like Colossus, and it's this Texan company that's like bringing their like sole purpose to
Oh,
like
yeah.
bring back extinct animals.
Not the woolly mammoth. Something
Yeah,
else. Is
yeah.
it the woolly mammoth?
Yeah, and the Tasmanian tiger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, so apparently they're like further along now at doing that. Yeah, apparently the way it's going to work is like crazy. Apparently the way it's going to work is like technical difficulty. Yeah, apparently they're going to use an Indian elephant as like the birthing mother for it. So what they're going to do is they're going to get like an Indian elephant. And they're gonna like impregnate the
mammoth sperm.
Well, it's not even like with a mammoth. Yeah, sort of, but they genetically they've like unlocked the sequence or the genome or whatever you want to call it. I'm not a biologist, but yeah, they've unlocked like the sequence, and they're gonna like modify the embryo inside the Indian elephant so that the Indian elephant will give birth to a woolly mammoth.
That's crazy. That's so
mad?
cool.
And it's crazy to think that because a woolly mammoth's hairy, and I can't imagine an
Indian elephant's bald.
So it's just weird to think that the actual genetic material of like the embryo of the woolly mammoth will hold all of the knowledge that to grow into a woolly mammoth. But you would think that would come from the mother. Like you would think that would come from the elephant. Like to make it grow. Like if it was inside a normal
like a mammoth
elephant. No, so if the woolly mammoth's inside a normal elephant, you'd think that.
When you say a normal elephant, what do you mean? Sorry,
just an elephant rather than a mammoth.
Oh right, yeah. Sorry, I'm with you. Yeah,
yeah. Like you would think that the information that the mother would give for it to grow would be elephant information.
But I guess they're overriding it, aren't they? Through science.
It's possible.
They're just overriding
you could grow something else. That's almost like saying like putting something in a human that wasn't a human. But
there is sort of like sense to it though. They've deliberately chosen the Indian elephant because the Indian elephant is the closest living relative to the woolly mammoth. Right. So it basically within an Indian elephant's like DNA, it holds like all of the genome and the sequencing to a woolly mammoth. That's why they can unlock it with an Indian elephant. So apparently they looked into it, and out of an African elephant and an Indian elephant, the Indian elephant is the one that's closest.
I wonder if it actually has any like influence, or it gets any of the Indian elephant's DNA or like kind of stuff into them. Like
apparently it will in like almost like a tiny amount. But apparently it's going to be like. I bet it'll basically look like a woolly mammoth. And the idea is going to be that they're going to like get quite a few of them, and then they've already got this like reserve apparently already like agreed out in Siberia, which was like one of the natural habitats for the woolly mammoth before they went extinct, and they're just going to put them in Siberia. But they reckon it's not like it's not even like that. They're one of the main reasons they're doing it apparently is for like the
meat.
Is for like imagine that is for like conservation and because apparently it's going to like help sort out the Earth's issues apparently. And apparently the way that happened is because obviously the idea is this business Colossal in Texas, they're bringing back these animals not just because they can
to actually help the world.
Because it's like for example with the one with the reason they're bringing that a Tasmanian tiger. Apparently, that whole ecosystem, where they're like the apex predator from that ecosystem is just like gone. There's just like it's all just been thrown out of alignment. So you've got like loads of prey species that are just running around like a mock. And apparently, there's as a result like certain animal diseases have started. And apparently, Tasmanian devils have suffered because Tasmanian tigers used to kill Tasmanian devils. And there's like this massive, essentially herpes outbreak, and you can see pictures of it online if you type in like Tasmanian devil herpes. And there's this massive herpes outbreaks where there's like too many Tasmanian devils and stuff, and they're like mating it. It's all become like dirty, infested, and everything.
Whoa!
And they're like they've got massive growths on the side of their face and stuff.
I wonder how many like woolly mammoth embryos would need to be done in that way to actually for them to start mating together. Because if there's just like one or two, then obviously the genetic diversity and stuff. Do you know?
I think that you'd probably only need about 10.
Really?
Well, did you know that apparently every single pig in America originates from these 11 pigs that were brought over by the Spanish in like 1600 or something.
That's crazy.
And almost like every single pig in the whole of think about how massive North and South America is. And there's like millions and millions and millions of pigs nowadays.
That's
they all originate from these 11 pigs that the Spaniards just brought over on their ships once. And there's even like a historical account of it.
Yeah,
and they pretty and yeah.
I wonder if it doesn't matter so much in animals as it does, like say with like humans and like interbreeding and stuff. You know
I reckon. I don't know. I don't personally see any reason why it would be any different. To be honest,
I wonder how that elephant is going to react when it gives birth to that mammoth. Because they're one of the animals that look after their youth, aren't they?
Yeah,
elephants.
yeah.
So it might look at it and be like, "That's a bit weird. Never seen that before."
I mean, I guess one thing that you could say is, in that respect, I haven't really thought about that. Like, if they're just going to like take this, well, I don't know, because I guess the woolly mammoth is going to have to reach a certain amount of maturity until they go and put it in Siberia.
They're going to give it
so like
milk or
they're going to have to like is like the Indian elephant going to like breastfeed it and
because haven't they got one of the most nutrient I swear I heard that about elephants at some point. The actual amount of nutrients that there needs to be in the milk of an elephant is just like crazy because it's obviously growing one of the biggest mammals. Like,
I mean, that would make sense.
And I swear I've heard that at some point.
I know that camels have ridiculously good milk, and apparently camels' milk is the one that's most similar of all animals to human milk.
And it's really good as well. I tried some camel milk.
And apparently people that fermented. Are like lactose intolerant and stuff and can't drink cow's milk and have tried like goat's milk and can't process that either. Apparently, pretty much everybody on the planet can have camel's milk. But obviously, the thing is just that, like, if you're like in Britain, for example, like we are, you can't really just go get camel milk.
Yeah, really good hangover cure.
But I always thought it was like really super random that the milk that was most similar to humans is camel.
Yeah, and the hearts is pig.
Yeah. Well, apparently, human meat tastes like pork. So cannibals call human meat long pig.
Yeah, that's it, long pig. Yeah,
long pig. I'll get some long pig tonight. Yeah, but like, crazy. Haven't people even had like? I mean, obviously, it's a super
successful
hard
transplants.
Yeah,
hearts,
I was going to say it's a super obviously hard procedure and it costs a lot of money to do it and everything. But I'm pretty sure, there have been successful heart transplants from pigs.
I read a book about that as in primary school. I'm pretty sure it's called Pig Boy or something like that. Pig Heart Boy.
Oh yeah, that rings a bell actually. Pig Boy or something like that. Do you know what creeps me out a little bit about that though? Isn't there like stories about people that have had like transplants?
Oh yes,
and like they've had like memories.
Yeah,
they've randomly had like memories, and thought like it was something weird.
Also,
what is this going to be?
Yeah. So they've almost like since they woken up from their successful surgery, and then they found it was like somebody that died, obviously that donated their organs, and then they've started getting all these weird memories of almost like this different life, and then they've gone on like this quest and then like found the family of the person whose organs they have inside them, and they have these weird memories of these people. But how creepy is that if you did it with a pig?
Yeah, that's what freaks me out the most.
You're gonna turn into a were-pig.
Yeah, or you just like you wanting to like sniff around all the undergrowth and just
imagine. I've got to say, the horror movie The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. Have any of you seen that? It's a really good movie, by the way. You should see it. It's really, and it's actually, I think a lot of people don't know this, but the movie The Fly with Jeff Goldblum is based on a really old horror movie from like the 50s or the 60s, and that's really good too. They're both worth a watch. But it reminds me almost like a bit like that. Like in The Fly, he doesn't just turn into a fly like straight away. He slowly does. And it's like his girlfriend's almost like more just thinking like, what the hell's going on with you? And then it's like at the end, there's like quite a grotesque reveal. Where then suddenly, horrible. Where he's like completely physically like mutated, and it's like gross, man. And it does look real freaky because it's like this weird man-fly hybrid. But I imagine it almost like that. Like you get a pig heart transplant and you're like, everything's all right at first. And then you're like, you just
start off with like some dreams. You're dreaming of being a pig.
You start eating like
and then definitely hear about those memories being transferred, and even just like gifts, like languages or abilities to play musical instruments and things, like people playing the piano and stuff that can. Do you know what I mean? Like after they've had heart transplants and that. So there must be some kind of like memory that is stored in the just genes.
But imagine how freaky that is, that you become like almost like part pig.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know what that would be like.
In the middle of the night, your missus just wakes up and all she
if you get memories from the human one, you can actually like relate to them in some way, not just like
turn into a werewolf.
Yeah, like
you start realizing that in the mirror, you're like, your nose just starts becoming like turned upwards, and you're like.
Imagine how terrifying that process actually would be. Like the first time you go to sleep and you dream, and in that dream you're like a
just
pig.
goes into a
You wake up, you're like, whoa, what was that?
Your feet start aching, and then one day when
that'd
you
be
take
savagely horrible.
your feet start aching, right? And then one day you get home from work, you take your shoes and your socks off. Yeah.
Well, you got a corkscrew bit.
You just got you got a little corkscrew knob, and you've got little hooves for feet, and you're like hiding them like from society, but it's like a weird little dirty secret you've got.
No, thank you.
That's creepy.
You start getting like little freaking like like
I
little
really want to
tusks.
know about that now because you've heard a lot of stories about people like from humans but not from animals. Like, do you actually get some of those?
What a thing to
carryovers?
Google. Do people with pig heart transplants become werepigs?
Become more pig
imagine
than
you
human.
could understand. Imagine
He's
you've
more
got,
pig
like,
than man now.
Imagine you've got a pig heart transplant and you could understand what other pigs were saying.
Yeah.
Like you went to a zoo and everything's been normal. You go to a zoo, you just hear, and then
Or
and
you
then in
just
the
start
background,
getting really
you just
attracted
can't
to
understand
pigs.
it. Oh,
Man.
And you marry a pig.
Oh, mate, pig
oh
man.
man.
Or like
I don't understand. I can tell what he thinks.
in my head, it's like this is almost like a full blown horror movie. So it's almost like creepy. Like he goes to the zoo and he's already like worried that he's turning into a bit of a pig, and then he hears
Yes.
and then you hear like Simon, Simon, and then you look over your
He's
corner
in
and
the pig pen again.
there's just like a little pig looking at you, and it's like everyone else just says, but he's just like Simon. I know you can hear me, Simon.
Yeah. Hey, Porky.
Hey, Porky. You're one of us now.
It's weird that the pig is the closest to the human heart though. Like you would think like a chimp or something. Or like,
Oh, I don't know. A chimp might be, but it's hard to get their hands on, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's hard
Do you
to get your
reckon
hands on
a
a
chimp
chimp.
might be?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's like I know that it's like the pigs are like the closest to us, but does that mean just closest to us that we can readily get our hands on?
I don't know. I would say if a chimp was closer, then scientists would have tried.
Do you reckon
chimp.
that they would just be
Yeah,
like freaking
I
flying
reckon.
chimps in and just kept murking them for their
reckon.
hearts?
I reckon
That's
So
quite
that-
dark though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people might say that's hypocritical because it's like a pig,
versus a chimp.
But like, there's something about apes because they're like our cousins almost. So we're
Yeah.
like related to
Yeah.
them. Like you see an ape and you think, oh, that's pretty human, like And I said I know a lot of people might not like that because they might think like a pig's an animal too. But obviously chimps are more intelligent. They're more like us. So it's like where do you draw the line with stuff? Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, you wouldn't kill another human for the heart.
I
So
don't
would you
think
kill
that
a
would
great
be-
ape? Because there's
yeah.
only a few great ape species. Like, do you know what I mean? And the chimps are a great ape. There's orangutans, gorillas, chimps, and humans. We're the only. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like any of those four. We're so closely related to them. I think to be that closely related to them, surely their hearts would be more similar to ours than a pig's. But B, are they not doing it because of the ethical reasons of them being so similar to us? But I don't know. You might be right.
I have some read
There
here,
might just randomly
pigs,
be-
however, are proven to be better donors, at least in tests on baboons and stuff like that.
When you say tests on baboons,
I'll look into that one in a second. I'll read this bit first, though.
does it? It probably means that they've tried
put
baboon
pig
hearts.
in. It's either that or they've put pig hearts
Either
in
they've
baboons.
put pig hearts in baboons, or they've tried baboon hearts in humans.
Oh yeah, like maybe they've tried it on and like pig hearts into a monkey because.
Or
a monkey
maybe
is
they've
close
tried
to a
baboon
human.
hearts in us because baboons aren't part of the great ape species and they're a lot stupider. So maybe they see it as more ethical,
Yeah.
more ethically sound.
Apparently, people can't
offense,
actually
baboons. No offense,
people
baboons.
can't actually survive very long with a pig heart. It does say
okay.
this though: the process of implanting an organ from one animal species to another took a leap forward in January 2022.
Oh, super recent.
When a 57-year-old man with terminal heart disease received the first ever transplant of a genetically modified pig heart. The patient lived for 61 days. So he got a good 2 months.
Yeah,
but it's not that long, is
It
it?
doesn't seem
Worth it,
much, does
no.
it? Like, no. It must like suck to be the guy and be like, I'm probably
Yeah.
going to die real soon. I'd probably just rather just keep my heart and just die 61 days earlier. But you'd feel a bit
Yeah.
weird because I bet it would like almost like would be a bit like weird
Yeah.
and achy, and because he would just had the surgery, like he'd probably been really sore for like that last 61 days as well. Because he would have had to have full on had his rib cage and everything opened up like frickin' butterflied. Do you know what I mean? Like
There's
a chicken.
there's this really good book called Quarks of Light. I think I might have said about it before about like a guy who got a heart transplant and the girl was she was about 19 or 18 or 19 and he was like a 50-year-old man or something. But he started having dreams, like vivid dreams of this girl, and she'd come out of the forest. And like said, there was loads of women around her as well, and she had like all cut arms and stuff, and was like just looking at him and like screaming at him in the dream and that. and just like he would be having these repeat dreams, and he would know that it was the girl who he had the heart. And there were certain things like when he saw certain things, his heart would start beating like way faster with like certain things that were happening
That's
to
creepy.
him. And he was thinking that those were memories from the girl that from her heart. And he said it was like she was trying to tell him something in these dreams, and her arms were all cut and stuff. And he finally got in touch with the father of the girl, and she explained, her father explained to him that she like committed suicide, and she like cut her wrists and stuff, and that was actually how she died. So that was like he's having dreams of her with these arms cut and stuff.
Mental,
and then like he also spoke to the and in these dreams she was really like sad, and there was all these women around her as well, and he said it was like she was trying to tell him something about like why she did it or whatever. And then he spoke to her friend's the donor heart girl's best friend, and got really emotional, and like she was talking to him and explaining about like bullying and he didn't know anything about social media, this old guy with the heart. And she was explaining about how like this girl had loads of friends on social media, and it was like this like how it is spoiling young people's lives and stuff because they get bullied, and she got really bullied on social media, but she also had a really big following and all this stuff, and it made her super depressed, and that's kind of why she killed herself. And what he was saying in the book is that like she was trying to get this message out about like that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like about how hard all of that was, and all of the women in his dreams were like the people that this was affecting, who are like being like really upset about how they're treated on social media and all this stuff. And it was something. So then he was like, "Oh, I'm going to tell this," and it's like this whole big story of how there was this connection with it, and like how he was then trying to get this message out into the world of how people can like seek help and all that stuff. And
that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
it was
creepy.
mad though, those connections. And
Yeah.
I thought that was crazy.
That is well cool, man.
Yeah.
That is nuts, isn't it? It's the idea that, well, I remember like there is a lot of research that's been come out in the last like few years. I don't know how many years, but I think it was the ancient Greeks used to think that there were, I don't know if they thought of it like neurons, but they thought that our heart did essentially like had like thought as well as our brains. And obviously like science for a long time thought that was like rubbish, but apparently there's like a lot of discovery now that there are a lot of neurons in our hearts, and there's also neurons in our stomachs.
Yeah.
Isn't there more than like cats have in their brain? Or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
like there's more neurons in your heart than cats will have in their brain.
I just think we
do
have a huge neural network in our brain, but it's all linked.
I know it's tempting to think, and I'm sure people have thought this throughout every era of history, which is evidence of why we know that we are most likely wrong, and because we know they were wrong. I'm sure people of almost every era of history have thought that like their era have already sort of like figured everything out. So I think obviously like, growing up in our timescale, not figured everything out, but you know what I mean? I think our current understanding of the human body, we think like, oh, well, like, like really? Like, obviously our brain does all the thinking. And obviously I'm not saying that our brain doesn't do at least all of our controls our functional movement, and as our memory center, we know it does because we have, scientists and doctors that specialize in brain studies, and we know that the brain is massively vital in terms of our memories, our literal physical functions, and that's why if you go brain dead, you are like a carrot essentially. But I do think there's a lot more going on than we realize, and I think that there is more to say like the heart and the stomach. Say with the heart, then just pumping blood, and probably more to the stomach.
You gotta feel it in your gut.
There's the gut instinct and stuff like that. They say gut instinct, sayings like that. I think that with our stomachs and stuff, even I think it's more than just like digestion. It's more than just.
Did you see like the studies as well with like the heart, where they put people in front of a computer screen and measured like they were measuring these people's hearts and brains as well, and they were bringing up pictures of really nice things and also really
boobies.
Horrible things, like like death and like just bras. Savage pictures. Boobies and bras. And they were evil. And you can measure what happens in the heart when you see something bad, and also when you see something good, and what happens in the brain when you see something bad and when you see something good. And people's hearts
Yeah.
were reacting to the pictures of bad or good in a good or bad way before the pictures were even coming up on the screen. So that it was like there was a sense from the heart that could see in the future and know what the picture was going to be, and then it would like react to the picture in a positive or a negative way before it even. The brain would always be reactive after it had like come up. But it's like super interesting. Like I have to bring up.
I think it's interesting. It's almost like instinctively we know all this stuff though. Because think of all these things like he wears his heart. He wears his heart on his sleeve.
Going with your heart over your head.
Yeah, and it means almost like that's almost like your instinctive and your passionate and your romantic thing center is almost like your heart, and it's more like the clinical like the computer is the brain. But the emotion and the passion and the instinct is in the heart, isn't it?
Love.
And you see that some people seem to be more like, as I said, I'm not necessarily saying this in a literal sense, but almost like more like calculated and more like almost like brain, like brain centered in terms of like people that always use their brain over their heart. They never react to anything in like a passionate or an emotional way. They're very, very controlled and stoical, and other people just really hot-headed, very emotional. Wear their heart on their sleeve, like the saying.
It's really interesting as well. Like this guy called Hamilton Souther. Like I'm going to Peru in.
Oh, that's the guy that you're going to do that ayahuasca.
Yeah, man. And I've been watching lots of podcasts of him and stuff.
Right.
And he talks about like heart-brain coherence, and obviously, like in altered states of consciousness and stuff, like you can like experience like a bad trip, or you can experience fear and things like that. And he was saying that like fear is always a reactionary thing, like from the brain, and like I was wondering about fear, because that's one of my biggest fears. Is like, what happens if I get really fearful and then I can't control it, and I'm gonna be like, like scared, like
I think that's really natural.
And he was saying that the power that your heart actually has as an organ in your body, like anything bad that happens, any fear that you have, you can control by just centering into your heart, breathing into it, and actually the communication between your heart and your brain, if you bring that into like balance, then that will overcome the reactionary thing of fear taking over you. And it's like it's really interesting. So like he sees the heart as like a tool that is necessary to be able to actually have a positive experience, to actually have some coherence between your heart and your brain. Your brain is so powerful. The mind is so powerful. But if you're not balanced between that and your heart, that's when it can go bad. That's what so he sees it as a very like technical thing. It's not that and it's like your brain creates fear when it's reactionary. But if you're centered in your heart, it's not reactionary. It's in the moment. It's like literally like you are in control. So it's how to stay in control almost.
That's interesting.
And it was like really interesting. But it was like this. He's seeing like the heart as this tool that needs to be in balance within your body and everything. It's all like not one is bigger than the other and stuff like that. It's just generally, if things are going bad, it's probably because of that, and your brain's more in control than your heart.
Overthinking and stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
That is really interesting.
The whole story of that guy seems... Is this the guy you were telling me about in the car last week?
Oh, man, yeah.
I know you wanted to talk about this on the pod last week. His story is crazy from what Drew was telling me.
Yeah, talk about that.
So cool.
So like, he studied anthropology in... and he was
the science of human beings.
Yeah, from California, and was a bit lost in his, like, just straight away when he finished university. And he'd studied like anthropology. He knew about like tribes and stuff like that, and he apparently had like a bit of like a spontaneous like visionary experience on the side of a road watching cars, and this thing happened, and he's like, oh my god, and like and
do you know what happened? Or
he says he had like vision, like almost an experience of like seeing the cars, and then almost like from like a bird's eye view, and becoming a part of the whole scene, not on the side of the road, but like from above and seeing it, and then imagining all of the cars on the world, and just like this kind of expansive experience that happened to him that he wasn't like a spiritual person or anything like that. He just like had this experience, tried to make sense of it, and then he said he was having these like connections with like beings or like guides or something, saying that you're going to go to Peru and you're going to have this apprenticeship, and he was like, what is like, he thought he was going crazy, but he's like, he didn't know where his life was going, so he's like, I'm going to follow these and see as a test if it's real or not, and I'm going to go to Peru, and they're saying within 90 days that I'm going to meet blah blah blah, like meet these people and stuff, and he ended up going to Peru, and everything that happened in the visions that he was having, like, kind of happened in Peru when he was over there. Within the 90 days, he'd ended up in this really remote part of the Amazon where there was only like 2 family tribe, small. There was there was something like 2 different families that lived in this part of the Amazon, and he was sitting with these like really like these mystic people that were like that kind of taught him and everything. It's like it's crazy, man. Like he apprenticed with them for like 10 years, like just deep in the Amazon, and just was pretty mad.
Didn't you say that the people that he'd gone to, like, obviously studied this sort of ancient tradition that only their family knew, and they would only pass it on through their family bloodline?
So they like honoured him by...
Yeah, no, that was the crazy thing. Thanks, man, because that was the crazy thing. So he thought that was what had to happen, like he would be a part of this apprenticeship. But to be an apprentice of one of these like lineages of like shamans from their kind of bloodline, their family like tradition, you had to be blood, you had to be of that thing. And like he was
lineage.
he was going past the dude's like hut and heard him like screaming in there, and went in, and his leg was like ballooned right out, and like this guy Hamilton Souther had been in the jungle about like 6 months or something like that, like first going over, and he just intuitively went over and started like trying to fix whatever this problem was in his leg by like in kind of like sucking the blood out and like doing like some crazy shit, sorry, but
36 minutes 13.
Yeah, so he started basically performing these things that he'd seen with these people, but intuitively, like he said, it was just like kind of coming through him, and he helped over a course of 4 days. He helped heal this guy's leg, who was like the master shaman dude,
right?
And he said, "What do you want in return?" And he said, "I want you to apprentice me. Like, I want to learn." And like and he did it, and this guy says that he like saved his life. Like from doing this with his leg, so he like became their apprentice, but that was the only reason that he was accepted into that like lineage of learning and everything.
Didn't you say as well that these people had also had visions of him coming?
Oh yeah, for 15 years before.
Did you say these people are Peruvian?
Yeah,
they're like Peruvian shamans.
Yeah. One of them was called Don Julio, which is the guy who's dead now, which is the master one, Don Julio. And the other one is Don Alberto, which is like he's still alive. Don Alberto
like his son?
Don Julio wasn't his son, but it was from like the same tribe.
Oh,
like they say, like so.
So it's from the same tribe, not necessarily from the same.
When
family.
They say the same blood, they mean like they're tribesmen. If you know what I mean, and that kind of
probably a little bit inbred anyway.
Yeah.
How crazy is that though? That they had for 15 years they had visions of this American coming to
this white man.
Yeah, this white man coming to their jungle and learning their ways. And then he also had this same experience. Yeah. And it just brought them together. And then he did learn from them.
That is crazy.
Yeah, when you listen to like some of the stories about what he actually says, like the ceremonies were like, and what it was like to learn from these guys and that as well, it's like unbelievable. Apparently, like there's over in the jungle, it is so tribal, and in their kind of like in their way of thinking and their culture, it's all about battle, and it's all about like, so the other shamans and everything, you could either choose to try and heal people and like help people, or you could choose to try and use like the powers that you gain through these ceremonies in an evil way, which are like so basically their jobs were, they were like good shamans, which he like was apprenticing with,
right?
And there was all these bad shamans that were like putting like they'd get paid because it's so within their culture. Like people would go to them, so the people would pay these bad shamans to like put hexes on like
rival tribes or whatever.
Or just like to split people up, to ruin people's businesses, all that kind of thing. Mate. And then that's people would go to these ones where he was with to like remove those hexes and stuff, and that was their job, was to like, so he went for it, was for the whole 10 years was just completely immersed in this like tribal warfare, but on the astral planes and that. And you hear some of his man, it is literally like something out of
that reminds a Jedi rather than a Sith, basically.
Yeah,
that reminds me a little bit of like the X-Men. In terms of like, you know, Charles Xavier is like is supposed to be like one of the most powerful like telepaths on the planet, but he's physically he's crippled from the waist down. Well, one of the ways that Charles Xavier like battles people is he like goes into their mind and then he like fights them, like almost like on the astral plane. Yeah, but because in the astral plane, obviously he hasn't got the limitations of his physical body where he's like a cripple. So then he just like can basically do whatever he wants. And because he's like such a ridiculously powerful like telepath, it's like basically it's almost like he's like God in the realm. And there's just like, it's pretty interesting, man, actually. Like I think that's one of the reasons why I love like fiction and like comics and fantasy and sci-fi and everything, because it's just so out of there. And but it's the same reason almost like why this story is amazing, is because it's almost like this fascinating thing is it's like, like in some of the comics, I can't remember the name of the antagonist, but he even like, he fights this like demonic entity on the astral plane that's trying to like break through into the other one and that. And to me, that's like so cool. Yeah. I can't remember what its name was. It was like I think it might have even been this like Egyptian demon or something like that. But I was like, whoa. But like, even though this Egyptian demon thing was almost like almost like a god in his own realm, it was like, because Charles Xavier was like such a powerful telepath. He could battle him like in the astral plane, but obviously on Earth, if he somehow managed to get to Earth, this thing and break through, he wouldn't have stood a chance.
Yeah, but, man, it's insane, and just like some like thinking that that's just their normal life as well. Like apparently, like that was so plane. Much of the ceremonies were the first half of the ceremony battling whoever shows up and tries to take their power or whatever is mixing up. If they've took a hex off someone, the shamans that put the hex on that person would then turn up to their ceremonies and like be like, why have you know what I mean, like basically who's took this hex off, like why have you done that, and then go to battle with them. And it also sounds mad. It's like the first half is that, and then the second half is like all the medicine, is like all of the like, okay, now we've gone through that now we need to heal ourselves and go through all of this like working with the plant spirits and everything to be able to like heal our bodies and that. But this is just like normal like life to them. And apparently as well, because it is so tribal over there, and it was so only like you would only teach people these like crazy sacred secrets like if they were a part of the tribe or if they were part of the culture. Apparently him going over and learning with these people put a massive target on their back as well, because everyone in all the other tribes, in like tribes from Brazil and stuff like that, were like super angry that Don Julio and Don Alberto were teaching this white guy that had just turned up.
That's like blasphemy.
Yeah, and like so like they had all of these people after him because of that as well.
What, physically after him?
Like on the astral plane, like in the ayahuasca ceremonies, plus physically. So sometimes they just turn up and like, you know,
that's crazy.
That is mental.
And it is, oh man,
it's
mate,
such a good.
It's really
you would surely be living your life on the edge. Imagine just being in the middle of the freaking wilderness in Peru.
Yeah, I think it was more astrally rather than like people turning up. I think that happened a few times, but it was more like in ceremony they would get bombarded left, right, and center with all these like evil shamans who had like all these spirits on their side that were just trying to like.
I think it's crazy the concept that these like good and evil shamans in Peru have like almost like so much control over it that they could like deliberately like what's the word I'm looking for, like almost like intercept or like find.
It's almost like setting up traps.
Find somebody on the astral plane, like it's almost talking about like it's a physical place. Like I'm gonna find you on the astral plane.
Stories,
it's like the shamanistic version of that whole like I know where you live. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You better watch it, mate, because I know where you live.
I know your energy imprint. I can find it.
Yeah. And then it just like find you. I'm gonna freaking find you on the astral plane, mate. I'm gonna mess you up.
Yeah.
So you better watch out.
Yeah.
And I'm a freaking evil shaman.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That in itself is crazy. That you've got like pretty much evil wizards. Like battling the good wizards out in the middle of the jungle.
I'm going for this experience and stuff, but I've always been like really like dubious about it as well, or kind of like because it sounds
mental. Let's face it.
And that's what he's saying. He was like, be careful who you drink with. Be careful where you have these experiences, because you're opening yourself up psychically to all of these things.
Oh mate, that's just think of something.
So like Hamilton, like I really feel that he's like coming from a place of integrity, and the day where it was about the medicine rather than about like, he's powerful enough to like shoo any of that stuff out there.
Do you know what that just made me think of a little bit? Do you remember I sent you a video a couple of weeks ago, and it was like Sir Christopher Lee, who we've talked about on the pod before because I'm like a massive fan of his, and he played Saruman in Lord of the Rings, Saruman the White. He also played Count Dooku in Star Wars. He was also one of the original Draculas. I think he was the second Dracula after the original Dracula, who was played by Bela Lugosi. He played loads of stuff over the years. Oh, he was Scaramanga, one of the James Bond villains. Basically, just like insane. And he was also one of the main influences actually for James Bond, because he was a double agent during the war. He was also part of Italian royalty. Oh, just crazy.
The list goes on.
Oh, he's just like literally, I think, one of the coolest and most fascinating people that ever lived. But did you watch that? I think I sent you a clip, Drew, and it was a clip about Sir Christopher Lee talking about the occult. And it was because Sir Christopher Lee studied the occult his entire life, and a lot of people took that to mean that he was like a black magic user himself, which he says that he definitely isn't. But I sent Drew a video of him talking about the occult, and I'll try and find it just quickly so I can play it on air to you guys. It's quite chilling. I've just found it, so I'll just play it and I'll hold it up to the mic, because I don't think, have we not got it so the audio on the computer could play today? Or?
It does, yeah.
It will. Yeah.
The Zoom thing up.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, I might play
be
this
easier,
just because it'll be quicker and easier. So listen to this, everyone. This is Christopher Lee talking about the occult, but I found it real chilling, and it just plays in perfectly with what this whole thing you were just talking about, and it's this whole thing like the same way that this guy, sorry I can't remember his name,
Hamilton
Salder was like talking about like, yeah, he knows this sounds crazy and that. It's something about that Christopher Lee who's like
so accomplished,
and so
such a good storyteller,
and so clearly
and
sane,
genuine,
and so clearly, genuine and so clearly sane. Do you know what I mean? It's like, mate, his diction and that is like perfect. Like, I wish that I could speak as well as that guy without freaking doing hiccups. What did I just say? And blah, blah, blah. This is a guy that's mentally so tuned. It's just quite chilling. So let me just hold this up.
I have met people who claimed to be Satanists, who claimed to be involved with black magic, who claimed that they not only knew a lot about it, but as I said, I've certainly never been involved, and I warn all of you, never, never, never. You will not only lose your mind, you lose your soul. I have met people.
Yeah,
that's so chilling.
The way that he just ends it with, you will not only lose your mind, you will lose your soul. But it's just sort of making me think like obviously more like occultism, that's almost more of like a Western black magic thing. But let's face it, I think broadly speaking, black magic is like black magic.
Yeah.
And I guess,
that's their version of black magic.
Yeah. But it's just so chilling the way he was like, you will not only lose your mind, you will lose your soul.
This is what Hamid, he says. He's like, it's a warning. Don't go to just anywhere and do like an ayahuasca ceremony. Like the people, it's not just about taking the ayahuasca and the experience you have. It's about the way that the people are guiding the ceremony, how they're using it, what are their intentions. Like all of that stuff is real. So like you've got to be so careful of that, because he was telling one story about this woman, and she'd went to some guys, some other like center,
shaman somewhere.
Yeah. And they'd basically, what they do with the people that they like serve the medicine to, they'll put like hexes on them and some kind of thing to be able to so that when they go, they don't feel right, and because they don't feel right, they feel like they have to go back to them. So that's it's almost brutal. Like a way of keeping them.
So it's like
and
a
they're
scam.
very, very possessive over the people
scam,
that they.
Yeah,
like almost like a cult. Like you'll be part of our group. We'll fill you with all these like illusions, and then you'll keep coming back to us to drink in that. And that's scary, isn't it? That's total manipulation, total control. And she went to Blue Morpho, and the normal Icaros which they sing, which is basically how they like kind of move the medicine and stuff, like how they guide the experiences through Icaros. And he was saying that Don Alberto was going around and giving people like their own like basically songs for them to get into their field, and moving around different people, and it was each one he was going to, and it was very like very like melodic and beautiful and just kind of clearing and then he gets to this girl and it just completely changed. And him, as a like master shaman himself, could sense that she'd been to this other place, that they'd actually done that in her energy field. And then he started singing this like staccato-y, like moving it, but without her telling him that, oh, this has happened to me, or I've been here and I'm feeling this. Like he could like sense it in her, and then she completely. And this story was from another participant who were there, and said it was just crazy that they were going around all the people, and it was all just like very melodic and stuff. And then this one person that they knew there was something wrong, like the other participant know that she'd had this negative experience, but the shaman didn't. But he obviously did, because he sensed it when he got around to her. And it's like, man, that just kind of almost like, yeah, that's real. Like
that's credence to the whole thing. 100%.
Yeah, you know. And then he kind of shifted it out and it was, and like kind of realigned her or whatever, and it was all good, you know.
I do love all these like different mysteries, whether it's us talking about like you know, like the whole, you know, the neurons with the heart and the stomach, or you know, that thing, you know, what this story that you've been telling us, Drew, or like, you know, that thing by Christopher Lee. It's like, or you know, a lot of the stuff that we talk about on Pandora's Box, and it's like weird because obviously, like I would describe myself as almost like as like a skeptical person, as like an open-minded skeptic. But as I always say, like, I do think there is like a lot more to the universe than we know about, and I just find all this stuff just fascinating.
Through things like that, opening your mind up to those experiences is almost like opening up.
I find it
really.
I find
yeah. It's like, what is coming out? What is going to come out? What are you going to see? And that's the whole thing.
I find it fascinating as well. Like even like pondering like how much of it is psychological. And how much of it is not psychological? Is it like based in like well, not in your mind? Is it just what actually is going on? And then it's all but then I can spend time pondering like, well, what is the difference almost? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is even the difference between that? And if it's, you know, if something's real to you, does that make it real?
Yeah. Is the experience real?
Does it? Do you know what I mean? Like, because that's very interesting, isn't it? I find it very interesting even just to ponder stuff like that.
It creeps me out. Do you remember I was saying the other day, like black magic and stuff like that? I don't know why. Out of everything that there is, that gets to me a little bit, and it's because of this thing where like
manipulation.
Exactly. I feel like I would be. If I was put in this scenario, right, I would just feel. You'd be so out of your depth. There's nothing you can do to stop this magic evil person from infiltrating your brain.
Go in your heart.
And also, Jimmy O'Malley today would tell a different story.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
Today, you may have been able to resist the darkness.
The forces of evil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so cool.
It's only now cool. I realise. Oh, what was it?
You got the lyrics.
To do this, I must be death's brand new guy.
Turn into it.
Ominous ending. Right, we're going to listen to a track now anyway, guys. We'll be back soon. I could just literally do that for the whole rest of the show.
Yeah, man.
It's just too much fun, isn't it?
Bit of chanting.
Yeah, for everyone listening on the radio, that last track was Stonehenge by Spinal Tap. And before that, we had Fifth Fath Glebe by The Mystic Bells of Solitude.
Wow.
Hey! I'm going to hit some people with some interesting facts now a little bit. You could say...
Quickfire Facts, some would say.
Quickfire Facts!
Quickfire Facts!
Nice.
Do you know that Welsh women used to curse people by falling to their knees, pulling out their titties, and screaming obscenities at their victims? It's sad how we let traditions die. Yeah, is it, isn't it? You know?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you'd be called a victim, really, if that happens.
Yeah, you'd just be like, whoa, that was a bit random.
You'd be like, cool.
Well.
Maybe in some places in the valleys that still happens.
I hope so.
This is another interesting fact. I like this one because of how scientifically... it's just a true fact. The Cookie Monster has forward-facing eyes mounted high upon his head. Now, in nature... all animals that have this evolutionary effect are predators. This means that the Cookie Monster is a submerged ambush predator. Just something to consider next time you're watching. We're seeing the
predator of the cookies.
The Cookie Monster.
I like the Cookie Monster. I think he's my favourite character from that sort of Sesame Street.
Strangled by him in a dream or something?
No. Close. You're very close. It was like a blue like
strangled
puppet.
by the Cookie Monster.
It's one dream. You know, you always have like traumatic experiences as a kid. This one dream, it was like a TV show, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was on like Sunshine TV. I don't know if you can remember that. I don't know if it's even still around.
I know. I don't think that was around when we were kids.
But it was just sort of like a puppet, like creepy show, but everything was nice and normal. And then every now and again, they would cut to this blue puppet, right? That would be on a TV show, and he was in like a TV.
Did
like,
he look creepy?
They would like FaceTime him, sort of thing, essentially, like these other puppets, and he would just be in this all white room, like. Completely white, nothing else in the room, and he'd just sort of stand there and like speak. And I can't remember if he was actually inherently creepy when watching the show, but I remember I had one like dream where I was in this white room with this like blue guy, and he was just like torturing me. And like ever since then, like that character, I remember just thinking like that's
then I had
so
a thing
creepy.
for puppets.
So to this day,
for
creeps
blue
you
puppets.
out. To this day, creeps you out. Next pod, obviously, because we haven't got any visuals today, but next pod we're gonna have to get a picture up. Of that thing.
Definitely, my tormentor.
Hopefully you won't feel too scarred. But yeah, another fact now. During the making of Total Recall, at first, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a little bit annoyed with his fellow actor Michael Ironside because between every shot, Michael Ironside would go off on his phone and just be like, in the corner on the phone all the time. Arnold Schwarzenegger thought it was a bit unprofessional. So he pulled him to one side and he was like, Michael, what are you doing? We need to be more professional. And then it turned out that Michael Ironside explained to Arnold Schwarzenegger that his sister was actually in hospital with cancer. So Arnold Schwarzenegger then completely changed his tone and then spent time almost daily on set speaking to Michael Ironside's sister on the phone, giving her dietary and workout advice to try and help, help not just deal with cancer, but then hopefully even reverse it just through being healthy and, at least, being such an expert, being a 7-time Mr. Olympia. Knows a thing or two about diet and working out and stuff, to say the least. She made a full recovery, and apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger is good friends with Michael Ironside and his sister to this day.
Nice.
And they think really highly of Arnold Schwarzenegger because of all that experience.
I love that. Happy ending.
Yeah. It's always nice when you hear a nice little tale like that, isn't it? Now there's another quickfire fact for you now. Most astrophysicists now agree that the Big Bang was not the beginning of our universe. It all started off with Nobel Prize winner...
The little bang.
Yeah, just the little bang. It all started off with Nobel Prize winner Roger Penrose, who believed that the Big Bang was not the beginning of our universe, but rather it was the ending of the previous one.
Whoa.
Which is just... you can have many an existential crisis thinking about stuff to do with the universe.
It's never ending.
But yeah, I think that one in itself is just a really, really interesting one. And the whole mystery that goes along before that, was the universe before then the Big Bang then? Was that exactly the same as ours? Or how different was it? And
were we in it?
How long did that go on for? I know that apparently our sun has about 8,000 billion years left of life.
8,000 billion years.
Yeah, which is an incomprehensible time to us. But eventually, obviously, time is time. And regardless of how long that seems to us, and it is ridiculously long, because for instance, when we had Hen and Joe on from Shoot the Moon, do you remember Hen basically explained to us using concepts that we can understand the difference between a billion and a million? So it's very hard for us to conceive 8,000 billion years. But I think it's mental to even conceive in our heads that eventually, even if it is 8,000 billion years away, the sun will basically die, and then as a result, our entire solar system will also just collapse. That is a bit of a mental thought.
That is crazy.
I think of it even on the Earth of the only constant being change, and that there's been these huge civilizations and so many things that we don't know about that were imagine when they were happening, they would be the only truth that people knew, so real, and now they're just gone, and there's not even a memory of them. For us.
Well, that just made me think about the Amazon, because there's new stuff that's coming out at the moment with all the new LiDAR, research into the Amazon and that. Did you know that they found, I can't remember what it was called. They found another whole city recently with LiDAR. They found a massive city, a new massive city in the Amazon using LiDAR recently.
Mind, man.
So LiDAR is basically like infrared, isn't it?
That's so sick.
So they go across the Amazon in like planes and helicopters. I think it's helicopters they use. And they use LiDAR, which is basically infrared sensors. And as a result, because it's such dense vegetation, flora, that you just can't make out these cities. And apparently it's so dense that people have, and this isn't just saying like, people have, like archaeologists and stuff have walked right past like human-made buildings and walls and stuff, but they're so overgrown with vines and plants that you literally just like the naked eye just can't even detect it. So yeah, they've just found a new city in the Amazon, a whole new city which they reckon housed tens and tens of thousands of people.
Insane. We have no memory of this. And what I also thought was interesting about the ayahuasca thing as well, he was talking about it, and in the for how long people have been doing it and tribes been passing it down through generation to generation. They were saying that people have been using ayahuasca for over 10,000 years, and that it predates any religions that we know about.
Wow.
So like the use of these plants for that reason to actually traverse the
astral
planes and stuff, or genuine religious experiences where you're connected to something that's much bigger than like anything that you can experience like just generally, that actually predates a lot of religion that we know about.
That is crazy.
That's crazy. Like
that is crazy.
So cool.
But did you? I mean, I think we must have spoken about this before, Drew. I can't remember. I don't know if we've spoken it on the pod. Do you know that pretty much everyone agrees? This isn't even like a crazy theory or anything. It's like pretty much people are in agreement that like most of the plants that are now like overwhelmed the Amazon are like a product of agriculture.
Yeah, and like gardens.
Yeah. So
what?
Yeah, so they think that like pretty much most of the plants that are like overrunning the Amazon rainforest, the whole Amazon rainforest, were like originally
planted.
Originally planted.
That's mental. I've never heard that. That's so cool.
Yeah, they're
man, think how big the Amazon rainforest is.
Yeah, and literally like the abundance
it's like agriculture.
of it as well.
Yeah, it started off as like agriculture. These plants, and I can't remember exactly the name of like the trees or the plants, but there's like a specific one, which they think that it was planted specifically for agriculture, and obviously, but the problem with the Amazon is like say like in Britain's almost got the perfect balance in terms of like we have a lot of rainfall and we have pretty hot summers and spring, so stuff can grow then. But then we have those colder months as well, where then things are going to like cease growing and stuff like that. But in the Amazon, because of the mixture of the wetness and the heat and the sun and everything,
it just keeps going.
It just grows and grows and grows and grows. So it's like it becomes almost like impossible to keep up with it. So
think of the amount of life that's like been spawned into this world because of the Amazon rainforest,
and
like how many different
diversity.
And apparently as well, it's like when the Spanish first went back to Spain after being in South America, they did report that there were all these mental cities and stuff like that.
They were less overgrown.
Yeah, but obviously what the Spanish accidentally did, apparently
killed everyone.
Yeah, they deliberately killed a lot of people.
Accidentally as well, like smallpox.
Yeah, so smallpox is a thing that they accidentally took over. So they obviously didn't deliberately kill people with smallpox, but
decimated like 90% of the population.
And smallpox was brutal in Europe, but like what happens with every disease that where in an area that it naturally evolves, Europeans had natural pathogens against smallpox, so it wouldn't affect us as badly. But because
Amazon people did not,
because they had zero biological defense against smallpox, basically the Spaniards that went over to South America, well, and North America, but South America as well, mainly with the Spaniards, smallpox ran through the whole of the Amazon and basically killed like 90% of the population. So when more Spanish explorers
by
came
the time they got
back,
there,
and it was only like 10 years.
Yeah,
but as we said, because of the type of climate in Amazon, it's like everything like just grows like wildfire. So they went back 10 years later, and the Spanish explorers thought that the Spanish explorers that went there preceded them 10 years ago were lying.
Smoking the wacky backy.
They thought they were they thought they were lying. Because they couldn't find evidence of these massive civilizations. They found some small ones, but it's because like 90% of the whole entire freaking population of the Amazon rainforest
Been
been wiped out from smallpox, and I'm sure some other little illnesses as well. And all of the freaking cities had been overgrown by vegetation, like enveloped. And then to this day, they're only just starting to be found now because of infrared, because literally like people physically can't find them on foot.
And they're so remote as well, the places in the Amazon, even to like excavate it, and the amount of like
manpower
facilities and materials that you'd need to be able to do it, like it's going to take years.
I remember hearing that, I know that during the Victorian times, some British and I'm sure several other European countries as well, they did actually try to build some buildings in the Amazon and they just couldn't do it.
Well, like Iquitos, like the city, like the biggest jungle city, the only reason it's there is apparently because of the rubber trade. Whenever that boomed in like the 30s or the 40s or something, that they people went there to get rich and make money off rubber. And then there was this city created within the jungle, because Iquitos is literally in the middle of the Amazon. So it's off the river. The only way you can get in there's no roads to it from the outside world. The only way you can get into Iquitos is by river on the boat and then onto one of the roads that are there.
Dodgy as
or by plane. So the only two ways. It is still completely enveloped by the Amazon jungle.
So
it's interesting. Yeah, apparently it must be really creepy if you actually find them, but there are a couple Georgian and I believe Victorian era as well, like European buildings just randomly in the middle of the Amazon rainforest.
Whoa.
And it's because some Europeans decided to try and build like Georgian era and Victorian era houses there. But by the time they had almost like finished the house, the side that they started was already starting to like, the walls were breaking from the vines. There were like thick vines like growing through the bricks and vines coming in the windows and everything. And it was so stressful and it was so much maintenance that they just abandoned the buildings. And now, there's these random like British buildings that you could just find.
That's crazy.
And like Spanish buildings and French buildings that you can just find in the middle of the European style, and they just seem so out of place. But it's because a couple of people have attempted it, but it was just too high maintenance. So they just abandoned it. They just abandoned the project. But I think that's really fascinating.
And the myths of like the like 100-foot anacondas and stuff in the Amazon.
Yeah, I think that's probably rubbish.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't think there could be an 100-foot anaconda. That would be insanely big.
6-foot mouth.
There's only because I don't know that they
think how much energy that would take.
The
to
longest
stay
has
alive.
been like 30 foot.
I think that 30 feet. That's all right. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's a 35 or 40-foot one out there somewhere. As we talked about before we went on air today, we're talking about Bondo apes and how there's like a small like civilization basically of like chimpanzees who started off the same as other chimpanzees, but because they're isolated from other tribes of chimpanzees, they've experienced gigantism and a couple of other things just basically through selective breeding that have now made them larger and more aggressive and even have slightly different skulls than normal chimpanzees, but they still are just chimpanzees. The same way that say could happen, I would not be surprised, say, if there was, like somewhere, some sort of form of gigantism that's happened in the Amazon in some parts where, some exceptionally large anacondas mated, and then there might be some 35 or 40 feet one, but there's a big difference between 35 or 40 foot and 100 feet.
Yeah.
Like, I think, if it was 100 feet long, then its head would probably be like 6 foot wide. Do you know what I mean? It would be like...
Imagine it, though. Imagine it. That'd be insane.
I think even like T-Rex. I think even like the T-Rex, I think was something like 45 feet long. And that's one of the biggest predatory dinosaurs.
But yeah, you'd think that's.
Do you know what I mean?
Well,
That's like I think
huge.
100 feet would be comically large. Comically large. Like how
I
many?
love to think
Man,
that.
how many should be
I'm gonna
outrageous.
Google how many feet long a blue whale is. Blue whale length in feet. Let's have a look. Blue whale length in feet.
I'd love to see a blue whale.
A blue whale can grow to 110 feet in length.
That is big.
That is crazy.
I think that's one of my
flesh.
one of my things that I would most want to do in the world. It's like see that animal.
Swimming with a blue whale.
Imagine that.
It says most blue whales, which are currently the biggest animal on the planet, or at least not taking into account mushrooms and stuff like that, because there is that one mushroom thing in America, isn't it? That's the network underneath. Because technically it's an organism, so it's alive. But I guess we're talking about like
animals,
vertebrates and invertebrates.
Yeah.
So basically, invertebrates would be like insects and stuff, and vertebrates would be reptiles, birds, mammals, blah blah blah. Yeah, it says that most blue whales are between 80 to 100 feet in length and weigh 441,000 pounds. That is quite a mind-boggling number.
That's crazy.
I'm about 235 pounds at the moment because I'm getting fat. But think 235 pounds me, 441,000 pounds.
That's
Not
a lot
like
of
it
you.
is. Like,
Swims around. It swims. But bear that in mind for a second. That something that heavy can swim around. That's crazy. You would think it would literally just.
Well, one of the
sink like a
one of the
rock.
reasons why they die when they're beached, it's like because obviously whales can breathe air.
Can't move, yeah.
It's not because they can't breathe air or anything like that. It's because the gravity, without them being in the water, they basically they get crushed.
Whoa.
They're so large and they're so heavy that they basically get crushed by
crush
gravity.
themselves.
That makes sense. But I
They
would
get
have never
crushed
thought
by
that.
gravity when they're out of the water.
Oh, that's
so when you see a
madness.
beached whale, the reason why they die is the reason why you need to get them back in the water in a amount of time is because otherwise they will basically like die from being crushed by gravity.
Yeah, because
It's
their
crazy.
gravitational potential energy must be ridiculous.
Well, as I
based
said,
on how heavy they
imagine
are.
being 441,000 pounds and trying to like just function out of the water. And we all know what it's like in the water. I remember even when I was a little boy,
Yeah.
I'd be able to like pick up my dad pretty easily in the water.
Yeah, I used to
But when
love
I was a
that.
little boy, I couldn't pick up my dad like
Yeah.
out of the water. I couldn't even come close. It wasn't until I was about like 15 that I could like even start thinking about stuff like that because my dad was so fat. But yeah. So it says their tongue weighs as much as an elephant. So just a blue whale's tongue weighs as much as an elephant, which is obviously the largest land animal
madness.
currently alive. They are the loudest animals on the planet. Actually, no, they're not. I know that's not true. Sperm whales are the largest animals on the planet. It must
Loudest.
be quite close. Loudest, yeah. Sperm whales are the loudest animals on the planet. Obviously, sperm whales are close to the size of blue whales, but not quite. And apparently, on the average lifespan of a blue whale is between 80 and 90 years.
Cool.
Decent.
I was just thinking it would be cool to have, because you can get, there's certain rooms that you can go into and museums and stuff that are almost like hollowed out whales, isn't it? But
yeah.
imagine how big one of them would be of a blue whale. Like a hollowed out blue whale.
I've
to
seen
go
one,
and
I've
like
seen
see
one.
that.
It's in a
That
natural
must be
history
crazy.
It's in the
I
natural
think
history museum.
I've seen that. That's probably why it came to my mind.
Yeah.
But that must be mental.
Because they used to have a diplodocus skeleton as you walked in the Natural History Museum. But then about
seen that one,
5
but
years
not
ago, they swapped it to the blue whale, and it is mesmerising. I think I've got a picture of me.
Youch.
I've got a picture of me stood like, there's like the steps that go up, and then at the top there's like that massive redwood tree stump.
Yeah,
There's like a
that's
picture of
cool.
me like stood there, like, and then behind me you see like the whole blue whale skeleton. It does look pretty nuts. Yeah, it's so cool, isn't it, man? Where were we going with that though? Whales.
It was just the length and compared to the
snakes.
anaconda. Yeah.
But there is one really fascinating thing about large snakes that I do think is an interesting mystery. And it's an interesting mystery for several reasons. So every large area of wetlands on the planet has a large semi-aquatic species of snake. So there's like the Burmese python, the reticulated python, anacondas, for example, like all in all their respective areas. And it's one of the reasons why reticulated pythons have taken over the Florida so much as well, because obviously it's wetlands and they just thrive in there. The only place on Earth where there isn't a documented large semi-aquatic snake that's been documented by science apparently is the Congo, is the wetlands of the Congo. But interestingly as well, the Congo is one of the least researched and explored areas in terms of wildlife on the planet for several reasons, partly because the Congo is such a dangerous place, there's so much crime there, it's just a very dangerous place. And also there's a documented account, I believe, of a British officer.
Oh, the plane. Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah.
And they swam.
They flew over it.
But it went for the plane.
Yeah, so this is what. Yeah, so this is what happened. So they were flying over the Congo in the middle of nowhere. In the wetlands in the Congo. Some like British major in the Air Force or something, and he was in a plane, I think, with like 2 or 3 other guys.
Yeah.
And this guy was like a high up, like RAF British officer. So he was like, you know what I mean, like
Trusted guy.
Yeah. And there were other people in the plane as well, which 100% like confirm that this happened, and they've even got a photograph of it.
Right.
So they said they're flying over the Congo, and one of them was looking out the window. I think it was the major, and he saw what he thought was a freaking massive snake like slithering across like the wetlands. So he told the guy in the plane to do a fly around and come back because they wanted to make sure that it wasn't like a trick of the mind and he wasn't didn't see something that wasn't there.
Yeah.
So they flew by it several times and all of them were looking out the window and like, oh my God, that's that. And they estimated that it was about 50 foot long. Which I think that's 20 foot longer than the largest snake we've ever documented. Apparently as well, to be 50 foot long, I've heard that the head would have to be between 3 and 5 feet wide, which is like, think. If the head would be like this wide, that's sketchy, man. That's sketchy.
Bigger than that.
Yeah,
if it's 5, it's ridiculous.
Well, between 3 and 5, yeah. But and he was also making the pilot go lower because they wanted to get a better and a better look at this thing because they just could not believe what their eyes were seeing. And when they went lowest on the pass, apparently, only I don't know how many feet above the ground. Yeah, the snake actually
recoiled,
went for the plane. Yeah, and then they were just like, okay, screw this, let's just keep on flying, and then they flew back. But they did like 3 fly arounds.
Yeah.
All were like, oh my God, yeah, that's a 50-foot long snake, and then they've even
can all like recount the same thing.
There's even like there's like a really rubbish picture, but this was something like It's something like 1930. It's like a 1930 quality era picture from a plane. So I'll just put Congo.
While you're searching that up, I'll bring up something I saw this week that went viral.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy. I don't know like if this is something that people have already seen, but it's essentially a mineral which has been discovered only in the Congo, and it's electrically charged.
What the hell?
So you watch for the listeners of this week's show. Basically, they've got this rock and they're setting up a wire or 2 wires connected to a light, and when they touch the wires to the light or the wires to the rock, the light turns on, proving that it's electrically charged. I've got another video here, and it's 2 different rocks, and when they touch, it almost has this like
seen that.
Electrically, like literally like almost a spark of lightning coming out off the 2 rocks when they touch because they are charged.
Yeah,
how crazy is that?
That is mad.
I don't know if that's something that's already like discovered before this, or if it is like it's been sold to me on Twitter. That it is a completely new mineral that people have found and been like, whoa, this is crazy.
Do you guys want to? Sorry to everyone that you can't see it. We'll get it up at another time on a future episode. But do you guys want to quickly come up with this picture of this snake in the Congo? That's the picture that they took from the airplane. Apparently.
Whoa, that's insane big.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's pretty cool, isn't
Look at the state
Giant
of
Congo
that.
snake. That's pretty
Search
mad,
it up for yourself, ladies and gents. After
just type in.
That's a good picture.
Giant Congo snake.
Yeah, giant. Just literally, I just put in Congo massive snake.
I mean, you can tell it's a snake.
Yeah,
which is cool.
What's this? The mystery of a giant Congo snake, taken in 1959 by a Belgian helicopter pilot. Sorry, so it was taken by a Belgian. Cool. But I know that it was like I'm pretty sure it was a British officer that was on there. That was on the flight. But yeah,
madness.
Either way, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they think that from the picture it says from the picture they think it's approximately 50 feet in length. Apparently, with everybody that saw it in person from the plane said that it was dark browny green with a white underbelly.
Whoa.
Yeah, just interesting, isn't
it? Can different species of snakes mate?
I'm not sure, mate.
I wonder if like a reticulated python could mate with an anaconda. Or something.
I reckon that if they could, I reckon some scientists would have already tried to do it. Don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just think that like it's one of those things like, but I don't know, mate. I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that there are a lot of snake species are cannibalistic in terms of like, there are some snake species that have evolved purely to hunt other snake species. Do you know that?
That's crazy.
So there are some species of snakes that literally don't
the taste of snake.
They don't. It's not even just that. It's not even just that some other species of snakes in their diet. They've evolved specifically just to hunt
for that one
certain
kind of
types of snake. Yeah, which is just sort of like quite mental in a way, isn't it?
You've seen that weird like snake mating thing that happens like somewhere in America? And like they all come out of the rocks, and like I swear the females are like quite big compared to the males.
What, snakes?
And yeah, and they just get completely overwhelmed by like male snakes, and like all wrap around them, just like hundreds of them. Yeah, it's proper freaky if you ever see that as well. It's like weird, like the whole floor is just filled just with snakes like writhing around each other.
When we went to,
Creepy,
I think it was Sedona, we went to on one of our American road trips. Very cool. We went on this like Jeep buggy like nature trip sort of thing, and one of the things that they sort of wanted to bring you to, they brought you to all these cool like rock formations and like huge mountains that would, you know, may have been worshipped by people at certain points. But she was talking to me about, the tour guide was talking to me about like the rattlesnakes that they've got out there, and I didn't think that I would feel like this. It's one of those things that when we're talking about snakes, I'm not inherently scared of snakes.
But you were
or
like
anything
super
like that.
freaked out.
But when she was saying like, oh yeah, there's a lot of rattlesnakes out here. If there is one, like make sure you're straight back here, like don't mess around.
Whoa.
And I remember just being like, the idea of being out in the wild and just seeing this like coil
and just hearing
coming really, because they're quick.
Yeah,
like when they want to be, they can be quick. And I'm just imagining this thing that you know would kill you in one bite, just coming towards you, and you just hear this rattle. Crazy stuff. And it was actually quite creepy, even though we didn't see one. Just the idea of like being in its habitat was a bit creepy.
Oh yeah, man, for sure.
Must have been savage for Ragnar when he got chucked into that pit full of snakes.
Oh, full of adders. Yeah. Just full of black adders. It's weird to think that there actually are like native snake species in Britain, but they're just quite rare.
I don't think I've ever seen a snake.
I've seen one.
Twice.
I've seen one
Apart
at the
from, like,
golf
in a zoo.
course.
Seen one on a golf course.
Yeah, I don't know.
Once I saw once. Well, there was one in my in my parents' garden once.
Whoa.
Yeah, once in my parents' garden I saw one, and one of my mum's cats, who at the time was alive, called Figaro. Me and my mum both saw it, and we had to shoo Figaro away because Figaro was like, you know what a cat's like.
Trying to scrap it.
Cats are like so predatory, and something the sort of shape of a snake. It's almost like it's almost like a cat toy. It's almost like they want to. And we were like, had to like clap him away in that, because he was like,
I remember
almost
you telling me about that now. Actually,
going almost like to bat it with its paw and that. We were like, because a blackadder bite wouldn't be enough, obviously, to like severely hurt a human. They technically are venomous,
Right.
But I mean, wouldn't like kill you or anything like that. But not even close, I don't think. But to a cat, could probably do a lot of damage. I think a lot of like cats are sort of like a fully grown cat's between like 3 and 6. No, sorry, like anywhere between sort of like 3 and 8 kilos, something like that. Mm-hmm. Is that about average cat? Just trying to think. I think Scraggs is like an exceptionally large cat. I think Scraggs is 8.6 kilos. But yeah, so if you just say, I don't know, between like 3 and 9 kilos, but he's a really heavy cat. Like he's a really cat, but like you know, hench.
Yeah.
Not fat. And I can actually confirm that because I actually had to take him for his yearly checkup on Monday, and the vet confirmed that he is not at all overweight. He's just heavy because of how...
He's a big cat.
He's literally said... Can you imagine how like I was like, yes. I was like, get this Christ. He literally said... He's not at all overweight. He's just carrying a lot of muscle mass. And I was like,
nice. Good going, Scraggs.
that's my boy. Well, that's my boy. That's how we do it in my household. We eat big and we lift big. Although I'm not sure if he would have said the same thing about me if you put me on the scale. There's a lot of muscle under that flubber. That's what he would have said. Yeah, and also, just a quick shout out to Mr. Scraggs without changing the subject too much. Mr. Scraggs is like 13 years old now, and the vet could not believe how healthy he was for a cat of his age.
Nice.
He said, like, usually cats of that age, he said, their eyes are starting to look a bit watery in that, but his eyes were perfect. He literally checked out his heart, his lungs, his stomach, like felt proper around his stomach for like anything like dodgy in there. And poor lad stuck a thermometer right up his bum and everything like that with loads of Vaseline on. Because apparently, like from the cat's temperature of their anus, you can tell a lot about like how healthy
You
they're.
about a cat.
You can tell a lot about. You can tell a lot about a person by the temperature of their anus. But yeah, but like temperature of his anus was perfect.
Ah, nice one, Scraggs.
Heart, lungs.
You got that pure butt.
Yeah, he got that pure butthole. That like his lungs, his heart, his stomach were like perfect. And that he couldn't believe how healthy his coat was and that. So, like, you know, just shout out to Mr. Scraggles, my cat. You know, what a healthy, fine specimen. It was really nice, actually. The vet was just like, at the end, he was like, I can't believe how healthy he is for a 13-year-old. And he was just like, well, the only thing I can say is, whatever you're doing, just keep on doing it. And I was just like, yeah, boom. That's what you want. That's what you want to hear from the vet.
Living out in the country.
That's what you want to hear. Yeah, man. That's what I said to him. I was like, well,
country,
he regularly hunts. I was like, you know, he was like, what do you feed him? And I was like, just try and give him a mixture of everything. I was like, try and give him scraps of my food. I was like, I do give him cat food, but I don't try and give it to him like, you know, like all the like loads, because I don't think cat like food is like
the best.
No,
like,
not the most nutritious.
I think cat biscuits are not too bad because it's good for them to grind them up and everything, and it cleans their teeth and stuff like that. But I think like cat meat, I say cat meat, it's not actually that meaty. a lot of cats just end up like licking the jelly and the gravy and leaving the meat. It's because cats know it's not meat and they don't want to eat it. So I'd give them a lot of like, you know, salmon, cod, even like steak, chicken, you know, a lot of leftover scraps. And I think probably a mixture of that, like hunting a lot and stuff like that, and just like having lots of water available to him all the time. Do you know what I mean? He's just like, he's just a well-oiled machine.
Living good.
But yeah, going back to my original point, my mum's cat Figaro, we had to clap him away from that black adder that was in the garden. I assume it was a black adder. I know that there's two species of snake that's common to Britain. I think one is the grass snake and one's the black adder. I think.
Is one of them green?
Yeah, I think
probably
that's
the grass snake.
Yeah, let me just look
I
that.
think that's what I saw at the golf course.
I feel like that's probably the one you'd want to come in contact
British snake species. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there's just two. One of them's black adder and one of them's snake species. There we go. Let's have a look then, ladies and gentlemen. Two biological species of snake in the United Kingdom. Yep, there's two. So Drew, this is the one that you would have seen, mate. If you want to get at that, looks like that's a grass snake and that's an adder.
Yeah. It's so funny with snakes that the more like dangerous they are, the more evil they look.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like it's so there is literally a graph you could go from that is just a complete diagonal line of
pure evil. Could
kill you, looks scary.
Yeah, but yeah, that's so the ones that I've definitely saw was an adder because it had that colouring. It was like, you know,
snakes like lizards just with their arms and legs like retracted.
No,
I don't think so.
No. There's a difference between lizards and snakes, and that is why one of the interesting things which often throws people is that slow worms are actually lizards, not snakes.
I think that's why.
And people get
got the thing from.
Yeah, and people get confused about that because they like, well, a slow worm looks like a snake, so how is it not like a snake? But obviously, a bit like that the tree fact that we talked about before, something to be related, it has to be very specific. It doesn't just. It's not a matter of just looking.
Set of principles.
Yeah, it's not just a matter of looking the same. So a slow worm and a snake, what they are an example of is convergent evolution. We've talked about convergent evolution on Pandora's Box before.
Yeah.
So what convergent evolution is, it's not something hasn't evolved and they're related. They've evolved in the same way to suit a certain climate or whatever, but they haven't evolved together. It's completely separate. They're completely separate animals. So that is why slow worms technically are a species of lizard, but they're just a species of legless lizard. If you look at the X-ray of a slow worm, you can just about make out these tiny, non-existent little stumps. The same way that if you X-rayed, say, a whale, you can even make out they've almost got like four fingers and almost like a thumb.
Also with birds.
Almost like humans.
Also with
That's
birds.
crazy.
Also with birds, their wings. If it,
because they come from reptiles.
Yeah.
Because birds evolved from reptiles, and obviously reptiles
you can see like the hands of their wings.
Yeah.
Like, their fingers.
It's exactly the same thing. Because whether you think of like most lizards, like iguanas, or whether you think of crocodiles or stuff, like most reptiles that aren't snakes, that is anyway. They have hands, and then as you know, whether you want to call them fingers or whatever, appendages. The same way, birds evolved from reptiles, so they have them in their wings, and the same way that, you know, we are mammals and we have hands with like fingers and thumbs and stuff. Whales are obviously related to us because they are mammals too, and they came from like a creature that was a bit like a hippo, a long time ago. And even though they've evolved to have flippers, inside their bones almost look like hands. It's crazy.
So cool.
It looks like the skeleton. It's almost like, you know, imagine if my hand was just covered in almost like a flipper. It's like, that's what almost like what it looks like. It's cool. But yeah, slow worm is actually technically a species of legless lizard.
Lizard.
And yeah, if you look at the skeleton of them, you can just about make out apparently these tiny little stumps where their arms and legs should be. But I've got a picture of a slow worm up here, so... I
remember the first time I saw a slow worm, I thought it was a snake.
It does actually say here, there's loads of slow worms around mine. I think you've even been round before and Scraggles has got a slow worm in front of you, hasn't he? Yeah. So that's a slow worm. So I have to deal with these quite a lot, Bullwinkle, and ladies and gentlemen that are listening, because around where I live, in Somerset,
I don't actually think I've seen one of those either.
Mate, I see them every time it gets to about spring, my cat always gets them. But he never kills them. I always save them before they're killed.
They drop their tails, don't they?
Yes, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why they never die. Well, like, you know, when in my case, I'm sure obviously a cat could kill a slow one, but they drop their tails, and then
Like
the tail writhes, and then the cat will get distracted by that, and then they get away.
Oh, that just gave me a weird shiver.
And then they just grow their tail back.
Oh.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's cool.
They'll literally just grow their tail back. That's cool, isn't it? And scientists have been looking into for a long time. Have been trying to like access that genome of lizards,
so we can regrow limbs.
So that people, that like have to, like amputee victims or people that are caught in car crashes and stuff and lose their limbs, hopefully one day we'll be able to like somehow initiate that process in humans, so that we'll be able to grow our limbs back.
Crazy.
I'm pretty sure I heard not that long ago that we're getting like actually quite close to that.
Whoa.
I heard recently that the biggest issue with these things isn't whether we can do it, it's funding. And apparently that's why, with that colossal labs, the one that's bringing back all these creatures, apparently that the scientists there said, we've been able to do this for about 2 decades now. They were saying the issue hasn't been whether we can do it or not, the issue is funding. The amount and millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds it takes to try and get a freaking Indian elephant, get it to a lab, and then unlock the genome sequence of like a freaking mammoth in it, and then get all these mammoths out, and then think about the amount of food and the amount of like stuff you need. Well, think about how expensive a pet is, just like a cat or a dog. Then imagine that with like a dozen woolly mammoths. And
It's
then you
a
have
whole operation, man.
If I
you
was
need
like a
multiple
billionaire,
scientists. You need labs with
I'd
like
do that.
millions and millions of pounds of equipment. Think about how much just the equipment's worth in this room.
Yeah.
Now imagine the stuff that would be necessary to actually like unlock the genome sequence of a mammoth, and then the containment areas. Do you know what I mean? The storage. The fact that you wouldn't even have to like make these packs with like places in Siberia that are then eventually going to house these animals. So yeah, do you know what I mean?
if I was like mega rich, I think I'd like to do that. Because it's after you die, imagine being the person that made it possible to bring back like a crazy animal.
That's
That'd be
a legacy.
so cool. So cool. Another video I saw this week was of a Komodo dragon's venom and the effect it has on meat after it bites it. So I'll show you guys the video. For anyone watching, I'll describe it as we watch it. So on the right, we've got a piece of meat which has been bitten by a Komodo dragon. God knows how they managed.
Already.
God knows how they managed to get a piece of meat off a Komodo dragon without it eating the whole thing. But
yeah, so
pretty crazy.
So ladies and gentlemen, basically there's two sort of what look like essentially like lamb legs or something.
Yeah.
Like leg of lambs, and then the one on the left obviously is like red and quite like a reddy, purpley, vibrant colour. The one on the right looks like it's grey.
Like grey. Looks like a well done sort of thing.
Yeah,
so I'll press play, and this is what
so.
happens over time as the venom kicks into the meat.
Okay, so it says day 1 at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it's already looking like disgusting.
It literally,
It's like covered in mold and it's growing.
Just
and,
it like dissolves.
Disgusting.
Essentially, it's crazy. So that is what its
That's
venom
actually
does
gross.
to meat. How crazy is that?
Now imagine being a poor cow.
And basically just having all the meat on your body. Yeah, and because they wouldn't be like obviously.
But if they was doing that in their stomach, like just.
Oh
like,
yeah, but man, they're like vicious beasts.
They'd have it like built into them anyway.
They're literally dragons.
And I don't think they would wait that long, like to actually eat it as well. I reckon it'd just be on the spot if a Komodo dragon decides it's eating.
Do you remember when I was talking to you guys about their ancestor, the Megalania, who was just like like the same, but just like twice the size?
Crazy.
Crazy. Just want to say, from looking at this website, I said there's only 2 types of UK. Only 2 species of UK snake. Sorry, there's 3. There's the adder. The adder is a greyish snake with a dark and very distinct zigzag pattern down its back and a red eye. Males tend to be more silvery grey in colour, while females are more of a light and reddish brown.
You can tell if a snake's deadly from its eyes, can't you? They've
Really?
got like I think it's the same as like a crocodile. If you look at the photos of like the adder versus like the grass snake, you'll see the grass snake will have like a round pupil, whereas I'm pretty sure like a adder will have like a more
an
like
evil
like
outline,
diamond sort of pupil shape.
Yeah, almost like an oval, but a very pointy.
Yeah,
oval.
exactly.
Like
the same as like a crocodile,
like
or something
the Eye
would
of
have.
Sauron.
Exactly. Which is probably why they chose it. 'Cause it's like the evil eye.
It also says that adders grow to between 60 to 80 centimeters in length. Then you have the grass snake, is usually a greenish color, although it can vary slightly. They have a yellow and black collar, pale belly, and dark markings down the side. They are our longest snake and can grow to 150 centimeters. That's quite big, man. Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like the size of some adults.
Over a meter.
Yeah, a meter and a half, mate. To be precise. Yeah. And then our third species, we have the smooth snake, which is similar in appearance to the adder, yeah, just really likes like funk music, and he's just like super good with the ladies. The smooth snake can be distinguished by its more slender body, round pupil, and less well-formed dark pattern on its back. Usually grows to about 60 to 70 centimeters in length.
Crazy.
Nice.
Drew was going to do a Mystery Mondays this week, people, but we've only got 4 minutes of the show left, so we'll save it till next week. Cool.
Nice.
So apologies for not having Mystery Mondays this week, ladies and gentlemen, but
I feel like we spoke about some mysteries throughout the day, to be fair.
Yeah, and it's probably for the best anyway, because Drew also, as well as the cameras, left his mystery sort of as he prepared it in the car. So it's nicely, you'll say it next week.
That'd
So
be better, man.
for all that work
In
you've
your own
done on it
words.
the last couple of days, it
it'll
won't
still
be in
be
vain.
worth it, yeah.
It won't be in vain. So I might as well just shoot out some more Quickfire Facts.
Nice.
Apparently, the Ents in Lord of the Rings are based on the Americans during World War II. And it's actually pretty easy to see why if you start looking into it. The Ents are Americans. What? You might say to yourself. Well, the World Wars, the World Wars were a big influence. When I say the World Wars, obviously World War 1 and 2, were a big influence on Tolkien's writing. The Ents, if you think about it, are a latently powerful but fiercely isolationist society governed by a super inefficient democracy. And they only joined the fight after one of the two big bad guys of the Lord of the Rings, Saruman and Sauron, but the two big bad guys of the war were obviously Germany and Japan, at least in the East and the West. So the East, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. It was Saruman that attacked Fangorn Forest. And that's what brought the Ents into the war. They weren't going to join the war, were they? And so they told Merry and Pippin that they weren't going to. So Pippin tricked Treebeard into going along by the River Isen, or at least where the River Isen used to be, and he saw that loads of Ents and trees and that had been killed by Saruman, which led them to join the battle. So they only joined the fact. Treebeard taking over Isengard after Saruman's defeat is even kind of like America using West Germany as a proxy headquarters on the front of the Cold War. That's a really interesting fact, I think. That's a really interesting fact. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, the Earth pulses about every 26 seconds, but seismologists don't know exactly why. There are different theories. But yeah, it is almost like the Earth has a faint heartbeat and it pulses every 26 seconds. Since at least the early 1960s, this mysterious pulse has been documented on multiple continents of the Earth.
That's so cool.
That is a weird fact, isn't it?
I love that.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Earth has its own. Well, it has almost like its own heartbeat. We can call it heartbeat, we can call it whatever you want, but it's a pulse that happens every 26 seconds. I think that is nuts.
That's
personally.
so cool.
I think that is absolutely
nuts, man.
I really do think that is nuts, man. I think that is absolutely cray-cray. So let me try and see if I can find one more fact for everyone then before we wrap up the show. Oh, this is just quite a funny one. In 1948, a man wore a 30-pound, three-toed lead boots, so a pair of three-toed 30-pound lead boots, and stomped around on a Florida beach during the night. The footprints led people to believe that there was a mysterious 15-foot-tall penguin that was roaming the lands. He kept up this prank regularly for 10 years before he was caught visiting various beaches. This hoax wasn't even revealed until 40 years after the event.
That's so funny.
Until he just came forward and was like, yeah, guys, I did all this stuff. Isn't that hilarious? That's
I love
nuts.
that.
Man.
The dedication to just keep doing it for 10 years.
I want to do something like that. I've often thought about just buying like a Bigfoot outfit or something and then just starting to like go around.
Going out in the woods.
Yeah, just like go around, just go around like Exmoor on the Quantox.
I think you'd actually have a lot of fun doing that. I think you'd find it hilarious.
Can you imagine summer nights? Like, think about how many people like flock to places like the Great Wood, Ramscombe.
We've got to do that and film it, man. That would be
hilarious.
And then think about the amount of people that go there for like barbecues and stuff, and then just like imagine just being in like and just waiting until someone passes. I'd be so willing to wait for ages if it meant like a good scare, or just walking around the woods and just wait and just knowing that eventually you're going to come across someone. Or like, you know, if you were like in the middle of like almost like, you know, off the beaten track, and then you just saw people walking, and then you just made like a subtle noise that you know would be enough just to turn the head, but then you didn't even act like you were looking at them or something, and then you just like walked off into like the and it would be in the freaking Mercury and the Gazette.
Imagine even like at Holford or something. That'd be hilarious. The amount of hikers up there, but if you're up in the trees and you just like,
imagine if it just backfired and just like some crazy farmer just shot you.
Yeah,
and I just got full on just.
That's
shot
what I was gonna say. Like, do you reckon you could get in trouble for that, like by the police and stuff, for like scaring people?
I don't reckon you get in serious trouble.
No,
I reckon you get a slap on your wrist. Yeah. How much trouble can you get in for dressing up as a Bigfoot and scaring a few people?
Plus, someone's got to be pretty mental if they see Bigfoot and just start chasing it.
Yeah,
You'd imagine people might get.
Imagine if I just had a full-on fight with somebody just.
Yeah, and you could get shot. Make sure that you're not around any farmers.
Yeah, wear Kevlar.
Yeah, if you like see someone just like suddenly walking with a rifle, just suddenly actually just fully hide.
Yeah, just take your mask off.
Yeah, it's just me, mate. All right, I'm just pranking some people. All right, I think on that note, everyone, we'll leave it there. So people of Somerset, beware when you're out in nature. There might be a Bigfoot about. But yeah, cheers everyone. Thanks for listening to another episode of Pandora's Box.
Pandora's Box.
We love you.